Ruggiero Conti did not usually wait for anyone, but that night, close to 3 in the morning, he sat in the dark living room of his New York mansion with his jacket still on, his sleeves rolled up, and his gun resting on the table beside him. The house was silent, the city lights reflecting faintly through the tall windows. His men had gone home hours ago. The meeting was over. The tension with rival families could wait. But she couldn't. Grace, his maid, the woman he had barely noticed for months, always moving quietly through the hallways in her plain uniform, hair tied back, eyes lowered, voice soft. She cleaned, organized, and disappeared into the background as if she didn't exist. Until tonight. He hadn't planned to walk down that hallway. He hadn't planned to stop. But he did, because he saw something that made him forget how to breathe for a second. A woman. A beautiful woman. Not the invisible girl he knew. Not the quiet maid who avoided every glance. A woman in a fitted black dress, hair loose around her shoulders, lips with a faint hint of color, heels that clicked softly on the floor. She stood at the end of the corridor, adjusting her earrings in the mirror. Her reflection was calm, confident, and nothing like the version he had grown used to. It took Ruggiero 5 steps to realize it was her. Grace. He had stared without a word. She had turned, surprised to see him, and froze for a second, as if waiting for him to yell at her. But he didn't. He couldn't. His chest had tightened in a way he didn't like. His pulse rose and anger mixed with something he didn't want to name. "Where are you going?" he asked, his voice low. She swallowed. "Out." "With who?" "Friends." He hated the answer. Hated the dress. Hated not recognizing her. Hated that he had never noticed her before. Hated that he cared. When she walked past him, her perfume brushed the air. Light. Soft. Nothing like the sterile smell of cleaning products he associated with her. She didn't look back. She left through the main door, and the sound of her steps faded. He ordered 2 men to follow her without explaining why. And now, hours later, Ruggiero sat still, jaw clenched, eyes on the front door, waiting for her to come back inside. The clock turned 3:07 a.m. He heard steps outside. A key turned softly in the lock. Grace entered, closing the door carefully, thinking everyone was asleep. She took 2 steps into the living room and froze when she saw him sitting there in the dark. Her eyes widened. "Mr. Conti, I didn't know you were late," he cut, leaning forward. "You said you were going out with friends. That usually ends before sunrise." Grace straightened her shoulders. "I'm off the clock. My schedule after work isn't your responsibility." He stood. His height made her tilt her head back. It was the closest they had ever been. Her makeup was smudged from hours of dancing. Her hair was slightly messy from the night air. Her cheeks were flushed. She looked alive. It irritated him more. "You came home alone," he said, voice tight. "Yes." "You shouldn't walk alone in this city, not at this hour." She frowned. "I've been doing it for years." "Not anymore." "Why?" she asked, arms crossing. He didn't have an answer that made sense. "Because you look like trouble? Because every man who saw you tonight looked too long? Because I didn't know you could look like this and now I can't unsee it." He simply said, "You work in this house. That makes your safety my responsibility." She shook her head, annoyed. "This is control, not concern." He stepped closer. "Call it whatever you want. Just don't come home this late again." Her breath caught for a second. Not out of fear, but because she didn't expect him to sound jealous. Jealous. He felt it again. It tasted like fire. "Good night, Mr. Conti," she whispered, moving past him and heading toward the stairs. He didn't sleep, not even for a second. He kept seeing her hair loose, her smile, the way she laughed with her friends when his men followed her to the nightclub. He had watched everything through the SUV window. Grace dancing, Grace hugging a guy, Grace shining in ways she never did in his house. He hated every part of it. By morning, Ruggiero was sitting at the long dining table, coffee untouched, eyes fixed on the doorway. He didn't know why he felt restless. He didn't know why he had been so affected. But he knew something had shifted inside him. Footsteps approached. Grace entered the dining room, not in her uniform, but in jeans, a fitted top, light makeup, and a jacket thrown casually over her arm. Again, he felt his jaw lock. "Going somewhere?" he asked, not hiding his irritation. She nodded. "Yes. It's my day off." "Dressed like that?" Her eyebrows raised. "What's wrong with the way I'm dressed?" He didn't answer. Because the truth was simple and unacceptable. She looked beautiful again. Natural, fresh, young, and absolutely not invisible. "Where?" he demanded. She let out a slow breath. "I have a second job." His eyes narrowed. "Since when?" "Since before I came to work here." He stood. "Where is it?" "That's personal. It becomes my business if it puts you in danger." She shook her head. "I'm not in danger, Mr. Conti. I work at a club, bartending. That's it." A club? The same one from last night? The thought hit him like a punch. He stepped closer. "I'll drive you." "No," she answered immediately. "Absolutely not." He tilted his head slightly. No one denied him. No one. But she did. "I said I'll drive you." He repeated, firmer. "I said no. I don't want my boss showing up where I work. It would be strange. And uncomfortable." Uncomfortable. He didn't understand why that word bothered him so much. "I don't like surprises," Ruggiero said. "And I don't like being followed," she shot back, her expression sharp. He froze. She knew. She had felt it. He didn't apologize. He never apologized. Instead, he walked around the table and grabbed his keys. "If you don't tell me the address," he said calmly, "I will find it myself." Grace closed her eyes for 1 second, frustrated, then gave him a tired look. "Please don't cause problems for me. I need that job." His chest tightened. "For money?" he asked. "Yes." He didn't like that answer either. He didn't like anything about this situation. "You're leaving now," he said, voice controlled. "I'll follow, whether you want it or not." Grace stared at him, stunned, angry, confused. He didn't wait for her reaction. He grabbed his coat, walked out the door, and headed to his black SUV. From the entrance, she watched him with disbelief. He wasn't bluffing. He wasn't going to let her go alone. Not today. Not ever again. She exhaled, defeated, and walked down the steps. Ruggiero opened the passenger door for her. She hesitated for a moment, then got in. He closed the door gently but firmly and walked to the driver's side. She buckled her seatbelt without a word. He started the engine, eyes forward, jaw tight. "Give me the address," he said. "No." He turned to her slowly. "Grace." She glared at him. "I said no." He inhaled once, deep, dangerous. "Then I'll follow you," he decided. She clenched her fists. "Fine." She stepped out of the car and walked down the driveway. He stayed behind her at a distance, letting her lead. 5 minutes later, she reached the sidewalk and headed toward the subway entrance. He followed from inside the SUV, the engine humming quietly. His eyes locked on her. She sensed his stare but didn't look back. Only when she was about to enter the station did she stop, turn, and face the SUV. The morning sunlight hit her hair. Her expression was annoyed, tired, and strangely sad. "Don't follow me to work," she said loudly enough for him to hear. Ruggiero lowered the window and leaned slightly toward her. "You don't get to decide that. You're my employer, not my owner. For now." She blinked. "What does that mean?" He didn't answer, not because he didn't know, but because he didn't like the answer forming in his mind. He watched her disappear into the subway station. 5 seconds. 10 seconds. He placed both hands on the steering wheel, fighting the urge to go after her. Then he started the engine again. He wasn't going home. He wasn't finished. Grace had a second life. A life he had never known. A life he was about to see up close. Because Ruggiero Conti followed her anyway. Straight to the nightclub. Straight to the place where she hid the version of herself she never showed him. Straight into the world that would break his control in ways he didn't expect. Ruggiero Conti did not belong in that kind of club, and everyone knew it the second he walked in. The bouncer at the door straightened his back. The music softened in his ears for a moment as his focus narrowed on the man in the dark suit, open collar, sharp eyes. People moved out of the way even though he did not ask. Ruggiero just walked, shoulders relaxed, expression calm, two of his men a few steps behind. Neon lights cut through the dim interior. The beat was loud, bodies close, drinks high in the air, and there she was. Grace stood behind the bar with her hair tied in a high ponytail, a black tank top, jeans, and an apron with a row of pens and bottle openers clipped to it. Her makeup was simple, but enough to bring out her eyes. She poured drinks with fast hands, smiled at customers, and shouted orders to the back with a strong, clear voice he had never heard in his house. She laughed at something a man said. The sound reached him under the music. Ruggiero stopped near the wall and watched. Ethan Collins stood beside her, mixing a drink and bumping her shoulder playfully. Grace rolled her eyes, smiled, and moved around him with ease. They were comfortable, close, used to each other. Ruggiero's hands curled slowly into fists. "Boss?" one of his men asked at his side, unsure. "You want a table?" Ruggiero tore his gaze from the bar and scanned the room. "That corner," he said, pointing to a high table with a view of the entire floor. "Nobody else sits near us." "Yes, sir." In minutes, the staff had cleared the area. No one asked why. Nobody wanted trouble. Ruggiero sat with his back to the wall. From there, he saw everything. The bar, the dance floor, the entrance, the emergency exits, and Grace. She noticed him 10 seconds later. Her entire body stiffened. The glass in her hand almost slipped. Her eyes widened, and for a moment she just stared. The music, the people, the lights kept moving around her, but she stood still, shock written all over her face. Ethan followed her line of sight. His expression changed from relaxed to tense in 1 second. He whispered something to her. She nodded, swallowed, and forced herself to move again. She pretended to ignore Ruggiero. He did not pretend anything. He watched as men leaned over the bar to talk to her, as hands brushed the counter too close to hers, as a man in a leather jacket tried to make her laugh again. She kept a safe distance, but it was not enough for Ruggiero. "Who owns this place?" Ruggiero asked, voice low. "Guy named Ben Turner," his man replied. "Keeps it clean, pays for protection like everyone else." "Tell him I'm here." "Yes, boss." In less than a minute, a nervous man in his 40s came rushing to the table, wiping his hands on his pants. "Mr. Conti," Ben greeted, voice shaking. "Didn't know you were coming. Anything you need on the house. We can clear the whole floor for you if you want." "No." Ruggiero's eyes never left the bar. "You keep the club running. You keep the music loud. You keep your staff safe. Understand?" Ben nodded quickly. "Of course, absolutely." "If there's any problem?" "If there is a problem," Ruggiero cut, "it will be because you let something slip. And then we will have a different conversation." Ben swallowed hard. "Understood." Ruggiero lifted his chin toward the bar. "How long has she been working here?" Ben followed his look. "Grace, around a year maybe. She's good. No trouble, no drama. Comes in, works hard, goes home." "Who hired her?" "My bar manager, but I approved. She needed the job. I needed reliable staff." Ruggiero was silent for a beat. "She ever had problems with customers?" "Nothing serious. She knows how to say no. And I have security watching." "Make them watch closer," Ruggiero said. "Especially tonight." Ben nodded again, almost bowing. "Yes, sir." Ruggiero waved him away. He stayed there watching, as 1 hour turned into 2. Grace moved from the bar to the floor, clearing tables and taking orders. At one point, a man tried to put his arm around her waist. She stepped aside quickly, grabbed his wrist, pushed it back to his own drink, and gave him a look that said she would not tolerate that. Ruggiero respected that. He still hated the fact that anyone had the chance to try. When her break finally came, she walked toward the hallway that led to the staff area. As she passed, her eyes flicked to Ruggiero's table. He stood. His men took a step forward, but he raised one hand. "Stay." He followed Grace into the hallway. The music softened behind them. The light grew dimmer. the corridor narrow and lined with doors to small offices and storage rooms. Grace kept walking until she reached the end, where the noise was distant and the air a bit cooler. She turned sharply. "What are you doing here?" she demanded. Ruggiero stopped 2 steps from her. "I told you I don't like surprises. This is my job," she shot back. "My second job. I didn't invite you. You did not have to. You live under my roof. That makes your safety my concern." She let out a bitter breath. "No. It makes my salary your concern. My safety is my problem." His eyes hardened. "You walk alone at night. You arrive home at 3 in the morning. You serve drunk strangers. That makes it my problem too." "I've been doing this long before I met you," she replied. "I'm still here. That doesn't mean you will always be." She stared at him, chest rising and falling faster. "You followed me here. You watched me work. Do you see how wrong that is?" "What I see," he said, stepping closer, "is a woman who should not be carrying heavy trays until 4 in the morning just to keep paying for things she should not have to pay alone." She froze. He had hit a nerve, even if he did not know exactly which. "How much do you need?" he asked bluntly. Her eyes flashed with anger. "I didn't ask you for money. I didn't say you did. I'm asking how much you need so you stop putting yourself in stupid situations." Her chin lifted. "Serving drinks is not stupid. Working is not stupid. What's stupid is thinking you can fix everything with money." "I can fix a lot with money," he said, unbothered. "Rent, hospital bills, debts, all the things that keep you tired enough to accept a second job in a place full of drunk idiots." "Don't talk about this place like that," she snapped. "Ben gave me a job when no one else wanted to. Ethan covers shifts for me when I'm exhausted. This club saved me when things were bad. You don't get to walk in here and insult it." He watched her face tighten at the word saved. "Things were bad?" he repeated slowly. "How bad?" She looked away. "That's not your business. Everything that can get you hurt is my business. You're not my father," she said, voice shaking slightly. "You're not my husband. You're my boss. I clean your house. That's all." He stepped that last bit of distance between them. Her back almost touched the wall now. His shadow fell over her. Her breath rushed out, but she held his gaze. "Grace," he said softly, "I don't mix business with personal life. Ever. But I am telling you now. This is not just about work. If something happens to you because I look the other way, I will not accept that." Her heartbeat pounded in her ears. She hated the way his words affected her, hated the way concern sounded in his voice, hated that a part of her felt safer with him there. She pushed it down. "I need this job," she said in a lower tone. "I send money every month. My aunt is in a clinic in Pennsylvania. She can't work. I pay part of the bills. And I still have old debts from when I trusted the wrong people. You don't know any of that. So don't tell me to quit. Don't tell me to stop coming here. I can't." His jaw clenched. "I didn't know. Now I do." "And what changes?" she asked. "I decide how to protect you. I did not ask you to." "That does not matter." Silence fell between them for a moment. Her eyes dropped to his shirt. This was the first time she saw him outside the mansion's cold lights. Here in the club's corridor, his presence felt heavier. His forearms were tanned and strong, veins visible under his skin. A faint line of a scar crossed one of his hands. She raised her head again. "You're crossing a line." He nodded once. "I know." He took a step back, giving her space. "You finish your shift," he said. "My men are outside. They follow you home. No exceptions." She opened her mouth to protest, but he cut her off with a look. "I am not asking," he said. She glared at him, frustrated, but there was something else in her eyes now. A battle. Part of her wanted to scream at him. Another part of her felt a strange relief. "Go back to your table," she said. "People are staring. Let them." She pushed past him and headed back down the hallway. He stayed there for a second, watching the empty corridor, then followed behind at a distance, back into the noise, the lights, the crowd. He stayed until her shift ended. He watched her step out the back door with Ethan, laughing at something he said. Ethan's eyes softened when he looked at her. He leaned in, talking close to her ear so she could hear over the music. Ruggiero's teeth pressed together. He watched as one of his men approached and told Grace he was there to drive her home. Her shoulders tensed. She turned her head and looked toward the street, where his SUV waited. For a brief moment, their eyes met through the distance. Then she got into the car. He did not ride with her. He stayed behind, talking to Ben in a low, serious tone, making sure the club understood something had changed. When Grace arrived at the mansion, the house was dark again. She entered quietly, thinking he was still out. He wasn't. He was in his office, watching the cameras, the car feed, the entrance, every angle of her return. Only when he saw her safely cross the hall and disappear into the servants' wing did he lean back in his chair and close his eyes for a second. Sleep still did not come. The next morning, he asked for her. Grace stood in front of his desk wearing her maid uniform again. Hair pulled back tight, no makeup, eyes down. The contrast hit him harder than he expected. "How many hours do you work there?" he asked. She looked confused. "At the club?" "Yes. 4 or 5 nights a week, 6-hour shifts." "You live here. You work here 6 days a week," he said. "That's too much." She shrugged. "I manage." "You won't manage when you collapse." She stayed quiet. Ruggiero placed both hands on the desk. "From today, there are new rules." She tensed. "Rules?" "Yes. You don't come home after midnight. You don't walk alone, ever. If you work late, my driver picks you up at the back door. You send a message when you leave and when you arrive. You don't accept rides from anybody else. And if something feels wrong, you call me." Her lips parted in disbelief. "You want me to check in with you like a child?" "I want you alive." "I am an adult woman," she said, voice firm. "I know how to cross a street, how to say no, how to leave when I feel unsafe. I've been doing it alone for years." "And you survived by luck," he replied. "I don't rely on luck." "This is not protection," she insisted. "This is control." His gaze locked onto hers. "If you had another job, I would say the same. But you work in a place full of alcohol, strangers, noise, and chaos. One wrong person touches you there, and security cannot always get to you in time. You can't control every risk I take. I can control the risks taken by the people under my roof," he said. "And you are one of them." Her heart stung at the word people, not staff. For a second, she saw something softer in his eyes, but she pushed the thought away. "You think you own my time," she said quietly. "I own what I pay for," he replied. "Your work hours, yes, but this is not about that. This is about the fact that there are people out there who would hurt me through anyone connected to me, including you." She blinked. "Why would anyone use me?" He hesitated for a moment. "Because you are close, and they think you are weak." "I am not weak." "I know," he said. "That is the problem. When strong people get hurt, they survive, but they carry the scars for a long time." The room went silent. She heard his words in her chest, where old scars lived. "I don't want your scars to get deeper," he added. Her throat tightened. "Why?" she asked. "Why do you care? I'm just the maid." His jaw flexed. His eyes did not leave hers. "You are not just anything," he said. The air in the room changed. Grace's fingers tightened around the edge of her apron. She felt unsteady for a second. "You follow my rules," he continued, voice firm again, "or you stop working at the club." Her head snapped up. "You can't ask me to quit." "Yes, I can. I need the money." "Then I will increase your salary." She laughed once, humorless. "You really think everything has a price?" "Everything does." "Not my freedom," she replied. He studied her face. "Your freedom does not help your aunt pay for treatment. Your freedom does not clear your debts. Your freedom does not keep you safe in a dark alley." "My dignity does," she shot back. "And it disappears when someone else decides where I can go and what I can do." The words hit him. He did not like the feeling that came with them. He leaned back in his chair, trying to regain distance. I am not your enemy, Grace. It doesn't feel that way, she whispered. He exhaled slowly. The rules stay. You can hate them. You can hate me, but you follow them. We are done. She stared at him for a long second, then turned on her heel and walked out of the office. All day, the air in the house felt tense. Grace moved through the rooms with robotic precision. She dusted, washed, arranged, and avoided looking in his direction. She had never felt his presence so strongly before. Every time she knew he was close, her muscles tensed. In the late afternoon, she stood alone in the kitchen, washing the last of the breakfast dishes she had not had time to do earlier. Warm water ran over her fingers. She didn't hear him come in. You're quiet today, Ruggiero said from the doorway. She jumped slightly and turned. I have work to do. He walked to the counter and opened the fridge, grabbing a bottle of water. You usually hum when you clean. She blinked. I do? Yes. She hadn't noticed. He twisted the cap and took a drink. Why do you hide? She frowned. Hide what? How you look. Her face heated. This is how I look. This is how you choose to look here, he corrected. Hair tied back, no makeup, uniform 2 sizes too big. At the club you are different. You stand straight, you laugh, you don't try to disappear. She looked back at the sink. At the club, I need tips. Here, I just need to do my job. That's not an answer. She scrubbed harder at a plate. When I was younger, men stared a lot. Too much. At work, on the street, everywhere. Sometimes they didn't accept no. It got worse when one of them had power. Her hands slowed. So I decided it was easier to vanish. No clothes that drew attention. No makeup in most places. I put my hair up. People looked past me. That felt safer. Ruggiero studied her, his expression unreadable. Did someone hurt you? She swallowed. Someone tried to control my life because he thought he could. He had money, connections, and a temper. I left that job and started over. Wearing this uniform helps me remember I'm not on display. I am invisible. Invisible is simple. Not to everyone, he said quietly. She looked at him. He set the bottle down. You can keep the uniform. You can tie your hair. If it makes you feel safer, do it. But don't confuse hiding with being protected. They are not the same. Her chest squeezed. Sometimes hiding kept me alive, she said. Sometimes hiding makes you an easier target, he replied. Those words unsettled her. Finish your work, he said softly. Then rest. You have your shift tonight? Yes. My driver will be at the gate at 7. She didn't argue this time. He left the kitchen. Hours later, after she was gone, Ruggiero walked into the security room. Screens covered the wall, each one showing a different camera from the house, the outside perimeter, and the feed from the car. He rewound the footage from the night before, from the club. He had asked his men to hook into the external street cameras and some from inside, thanks to the protection agreement with Ben. On the screen, he watched Grace move behind the bar again. He watched her smile at customers, talk to Ethan, refuse a man's hand on her. It should have been just another busy night. But then he saw him. In the back of the frame, near a pillar, a man stood alone. No drink in his hand, no smile, no movement with the music. He just watched the bar, watched Grace. Ruggiero narrowed his eyes and paused the video. Zoom in, he told the guard in the room. The guard adjusted the camera feed. The face became clearer, dark hair, cold eyes, a small scar near the mouth. Ruggiero's breath slowed. He knew that face. Do we have him in the system? He asked. The guard typed quickly, pulled up a file. Yes, boss. Associate of the Romano family. Name, Eric Maldonado. Extortion, trafficking, enforcement. Dangerous. Last seen in Queens. Romano. Rival family. Ruggiero stared at the frozen image. Eric was not looking around the club. He was not scanning exits or checking on a deal. His eyes were only on Grace. How long was he there? Ruggiero asked. About an hour, boss. Came in, watched, left. No contact. Did he follow her? Doesn't look like it, but we don't know if he came on other nights. Ruggiero's fingers tightened at his side. He looked at Grace frozen on the screen mid-laugh. She wasn't just a maid with 2 jobs. Someone dangerous had already noticed her. From now on, Ruggiero said, voice low and calm, we watch that club every night. We run through all security footage from the last month. If that man shows up near her again, I want to know the second it happens. Yes, boss. He turned, eyes still on the screen for one last moment. He had thought this was just about jealousy. It wasn't. Someone from Victor Romano's circle had his eyes on Grace. And Ruggiero could not stop thinking about one question that stayed in his head when he left the room. How long had she been marked before he finally saw her? Ruggiero barely slept after watching the footage. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Eric Maldondo's stare fixed on Grace. Cold, calculating, patient. He had seen that kind of look before. It was the look of a man who chose his targets quietly and waited for the right moment to strike. Morning came with a heavy sky. Ruggiero, already dressed, walked through the hallway where Grace usually started her day. He expected to see her dusting shelves or checking the laundry room, but she wasn't there. She was in the kitchen with the cook, tying her apron, hair pulled back, eyes tired from another late shift. She greeted the cook softly, then turned and froze when she saw Ruggiero at the doorway. "Mr. Conti." "Come with me," he said. The tone left no room for argument. She followed him to his office, hands twisting the apron strings. He closed the door behind them. "We need to talk," he said. Grace exhaled. "If this is about last night—" "It is," he interrupted. "But not for the reason you think." She frowned. "Then what is it about?" He walked to his desk, picked up a printed photo and held it out to her. Grace stepped closer. Her eyes scanned the image. The man in the photo stood half hidden behind a pillar, watching the bar. His expression was blank, but his eyes were sharp, focused. Her breathing changed. "Do you know him?" Ruggiero asked quietly. Her lips parted. Her fingers tightened around the photo. "Yes," she whispered. He waited. She didn't look up. "Grace," he said more firmly, "look at me." She did. "What do you know about him?" She swallowed hard. I don't know him personally. I only know I've seen him before." "Where?" "Years ago," she said, voice trembling. "At a restaurant I worked in. I served tables in the back section. He would come in sometimes, always sitting with men who made the staff nervous. I never heard names, but I knew the place wasn't clean. People hid when they came in. The owners whispered. Then one night there was a fight in the parking lot. A man ended up in the hospital. The next week the restaurant closed." Ruggiero studied her carefully. "Why would he be watching you now?" Grace looked lost. "I don't know." "You do." His voice stayed calm but firm. "Something happened back then. Something you aren't telling me." She shook her head, panic rising. "No, I didn't do anything. I didn't talk to anyone. I didn't testify. I didn't get involved. I just quit and left the city." "You left everything behind," he said, not judging, just putting the pieces together. Grace's eyes dropped to the floor. "I didn't want trouble." "You saw something," Ruggiero said. "Something worth remembering. And now someone connected to the Romano family is following you." Grace closed her eyes tightly, as if trying to block a memory. Ruggiero's jaw flexed. He stepped closer. "Grace, tell me." She opened her eyes slowly. Her voice was thin. "One night, after closing, I was cleaning the tables in the back. 2 men came through the kitchen door. They didn't know I was there. They were arguing. One of them was Eric Maldonado. The other was someone older. I didn't know the names, but they were talking about a meeting going wrong, about someone being taken care of. I dropped a fork, and they saw me. Eric looked at me like he was memorizing my face." Ruggiero's pulse tightened. Grace hugged her arms around herself. "The restaurant owner told me the next morning it was safer if I quit. He said people were asking questions about staff. I left that same week. I moved, changed my phone number, worked in places where nobody paid attention to me. I just wanted to disappear." Her voice cracked. Ruggiero felt something sharp twist in his chest. Not pity. Something deeper. Something he didn't like feeling. "And you think Maldonado recognized you now?" he asked. "Yes," she whispered. "Or maybe he never forgot me." Ruggiero took the photo from her trembling hands. "You should have told me this from the beginning." "I didn't think it mattered," she said. "I didn't think I mattered." He closed the space between them so fast she had to lift her head to look at him. "You matter," he said, voice low. Her breath caught. He forced himself to step back. "This changes everything. From now on, you don't go anywhere alone. You don't take the subway. You don't walk outside the mansion without someone with you, and you don't go to the club tonight." She shook her head, panicking. "I have to. I need the money." "You're not going. I can't afford to lose that job. I'll cover it," he said. "I don't want your money," she said through her teeth. He matched her stare. "You want to stay alive?" She froze. His phone buzzed. Logan Parker's name flashed on the screen. Ruggiero answered. "What?" "We found Maldonado's car near the mansion last night," Logan said. "Parked 2 blocks away. Stayed there for 30 minutes. Left around the time Grace got home." Grace stiffened. Ruggiero's eyes darkened. "Did he approach?" "No, but he's watching her." "And boss?" Logan hesitated. "There's something else. Someone inside our side may have tipped Romano off." Ruggiero frowned. "A leak?" "My guess? Someone low-level but with access to staff records or routines." Ruggiero's jaw tightened. "Find them." "Already on it." Ruggiero hung up. Grace watched him, fear creeping into her expression. "Someone was outside the mansion?" "Yes." "Watching me?" "Yes." She backed into the wall without realizing it, hands shaking. "Grace," Ruggiero said, stepping toward her. "Listen to me. Nobody is touching you. Not while you're under my roof." "Why?" she whispered, voice breaking. "Why would they come after me?" "Because you were in the wrong place years ago," Ruggiero said. "Because you saw something that involved them. And because hiding doesn't erase you from their memory." Tears filled her eyes, but she blinked them back. "I can't go through that again," she whispered. "I can't." "You won't," he said. Her voice shook. "You're saying that like you can control everything." "Because I can." She looked at him, really looked at him. Not as a boss. Not as a man trying to control her, but as someone who carried danger like a shadow and yet stood in front of her like a shield. "You can't protect me forever," she said softly. "I don't need forever," he replied. "I need until this ends." She looked tired, small, human, and for the first time Ruggiero saw how heavy her life had been long before she stepped into his mansion. He spoke again. "You're moving rooms." She frowned. "What?" "You're not staying in the servants' wing anymore. Too isolated, too easy to access from outside windows. You'll move to the secure floor." "The secure? That's near your room." "Yes, that's inappropriate. That's safe." "I don't want to be watched," she insisted. "You'll be protected." She pressed her lips together, angry, afraid, overwhelmed. "This is too much," she whispered. "It's necessary." He walked to the door and opened it. "Come. I'll show you where you'll stay." She followed him reluctantly, up 1 floor, past locked doors, past security panels. He opened a quiet hallway with only 4 rooms, his bedroom at one end, a guest suite at the other. He opened the guest room door. "This is yours." Grace stepped inside slowly. The room was twice the size of her old one, with a bed covered in clean white sheets, a window facing the garden, a private bathroom, and thick walls that muted the entire mansion. She turned to him. "I don't belong here." "You don't belong where someone can reach you through a window," he replied. "But this feels like—" She hesitated, searching for the right word. "It feels like I'm being kept. You're being protected. By force." He didn't deny it. She ran a hand over her face. "This is not normal. This is not what a job is supposed to be." "You think this is about your job?" he asked. She froze again, His voice quieted. If this were just about work, I would fire you and move you somewhere safer, but I'm not doing that. Her chest rose quickly. Why? He opened his mouth, then stopped. He didn't have a clean answer, not one he wanted to say out loud. He turned and walked toward the door. Take the day to rest. You're not leaving this floor without telling me. Ruggero. He paused at the doorway. She had never said his name before. Not like that. He didn't turn around. You will tell me everything you remember about that night, he said. Even the things that scare you. She lowered her gaze. Why do you care so much? He didn't answer. He left the room and closed the door behind him. Hours later, night fell over the mansion. Grace sat on the edge of her new bed, trying to calm her breathing. The walls felt too close, too safe, too much like she was trapped between a protector and a threat she didn't understand. A soft sound echoed from the hallway. Ruggero on the phone, voice low, angry. She stepped closer to the door, listening. Rebecca, he said, I need the file from the Romano case, the one with witness reports, the one everyone was told to ignore. Send it encrypted. A pause. I don't care if it's confidential. Send it. Grace pressed her ear closer, pulse rising. Ruggero continued. Someone inside my family is leaking. Someone with access to movement schedules. Someone who knew which nights she left the house. Grace's stomach twisted. Then his voice dropped lower. And one more thing. Her name showed up in a report connected to my father's old operations. That doesn't make sense. I want every document on that too. Grace's eyes widened. Her name? In a Conti file? She backed away from the door, suddenly dizzy. A connection she never knew about. A past she never asked for. A danger she had run from for years, now tied directly to the man who claimed he wanted to protect her. She sank onto the bed, heart pounding. What if Ruggero wasn't the one saving her? What if she had walked straight into the house of the man whose world had destroyed her life once before? She swallowed hard, fear rising. Because if that was true, she wasn't safe at all. Grace didn't sleep that night. She lay in the large, unfamiliar room, staring at the ceiling while the weight of Ruggero's phone call echoed in her ears. Her name was in a Conti file. Someone from his organization knew she left the mansion at night. Someone connected to the Romano family was watching her. Every thought tightened her chest until she felt she could barely breathe. By morning, she was exhausted, but she still forced herself out of bed and tied her hair back. She didn't want to draw more attention than she already had. When she stepped into the hallway, Ruggero's bedroom door opened. He came out in a dark shirt, sleeves rolled, hair slightly damp from the shower. His eyes scanned her quickly, checking if she had slept, if she was scared, if she was thinking about running. Good, he said quietly. You're up. We need to talk. Her stomach twisted. About what? About everything you overheard. She stiffened. I wasn't trying to. I know. His voice remained calm. But now we're not avoiding anything. We finished this conversation today. He walked past her, expecting her to follow. She did. Inside his office, the windows were half open, letting in the cold morning air. Papers were spread across the desk. One file sat in the center, thick, stamped, and recently delivered. Grace stared at it with dread. Ruggero stood behind the desk and crossed his arms. Sit. She did, hands twisting in her lap. He opened the file. Your name appears in a report from 8 years ago, he said. A report tied to an operation that went wrong. My father was connected to it. She felt the room tilt. She didn't speak. She waited. The report mentions a meeting at a restaurant you worked in, he continued. The same night you say you saw Maldano. Grace's throat tightened. So, your family was involved? He shut the file gently. Listen to me. My father had many operations, some clean, some not. Not everything he did reflects who I am, and not everything reported was true. But he was there, she whispered. Or his men were. He nodded slowly. Yes. Her breath trembled. Ruggero leaned forward slightly. Grace, look at me. She raised her gaze, even though it hurt to do it. You have every right to be afraid, he said calmly. You have every right to question everything. But understand this, whatever happened back then, I did not send anyone after you. I did not know you. I did not know your name until the day you stepped into my house. It was the first time he sounded almost vulnerable, not aggressive, not controlling, just honest. Still, she felt her chest twist with doubt. But your name is on the file. Your family touched the same world that nearly destroyed mine. His voice hardened. I am not my father. I know, she said softly, but that doesn't erase the fear. He looked down for a long moment, then closed the file and pushed it aside. Until we know the truth, he said. I need you close, very close. Her pulse quickened. How close? He walked around the desk slowly, stopping in front of her. Close enough that nobody can reach you without going through me. The air grew thick. Grace looked away. You're confusing protection with possession. No, he replied, but I understand why you think that. She didn't know what to say. Before she could answer, a message flashed on his phone. He read it and his jaw clenched. What happened? She asked. He hesitated, then told her the truth. Ethan is outside. Her heart jumped. Ethan? Why? He insisted, Ruggiero said. He says he came to check on you. Grace's face softened instantly, and Ruggiero noticed. He didn't like the feeling that shot through him. He's my friend, she said defensively. He's worried. He should be, Ruggiero snapped. But showing up at my gates is dangerous. She frowned. He didn't come to cause trouble. No, Ruggiero said coldly, but he might walk into it. Grace stood. I need to talk to him. Ruggiero blocked the door with his hand. You don't leave this floor. I'm not a prisoner. No, he said. But you are a target. And until I know who leaked your routine, you stay where I can see you. Her eyes blazed. You don't own me, Ruggiero. For the second time, she said his name, not as an employee, not as a maid, but as a woman standing up to him. His breath shortened almost imperceptibly. If you want me to trust you, she continued, then you have to trust me too. Ruggiero didn't move from the door. Grace stepped closer. Let me talk to him. His jaw worked. His eyes dropped to her lips for 1 second, a mistake he didn't mean to make. But he didn't step back. You'll stay inside the gate, he said finally. Logan will stand 10 feet away. She nodded. When she walked past him, he didn't touch her, but she felt the heat of his presence and the storm behind his eyes. The front steps were cold under Grace's feet as she walked outside. Ethan stood near the gate, hands shoved in his pockets, shoulders tense. When he saw her, he rushed forward. Grace, thank God. His eyes scanned her face. Are you okay? You disappeared after your shift last night. You didn't answer your phone. I thought, I'm fine, she said quickly. Just, things got complicated. Ethan frowned. Complicated how? You look tired. Did Conti do something? No, she said firmly. He didn't. Ethan didn't look convinced. Grace, I've heard things about him. Dangerous things. He's my employer, she said quietly. And he's helping me. Helping with what? She hesitated. Ethan stepped closer. Talk to me. I can't help if you don't tell me anything. She lowered her voice. Someone is watching me. Ethan's expression shifted from concern to alarm. What do you mean, watching? A man I saw years ago. He showed up at the club. Ruggiero, Mr. Conti, recognized him. He's connected to the Romano family. Ethan's face drained of color. Grace, those are the people from... Yes, she whispered. From back then. Ethan looked at the mansion behind her, then at Logan standing a few steps away. You shouldn't be here. If those people are looking for you, this house, this world, this is exactly where you shouldn't be. It's where he can protect me, she said quietly. Ethan stared at her, stunned. You trust him? Grace didn't answer immediately. Finally, she said, I trust that he's not lying. That's not the same thing, Ethan replied softly. Before she could respond, Logan stepped forward. Time's up. Ethan shot him a glare. Grace touched Ethan's arm. Please don't come here again without calling. It's dangerous. Ethan swallowed hard. For you or for me? Both, she whispered. He looked at her one last time. If you need a place to stay, if anything feels wrong, anything, you come to me, you hear me? She nodded. He stepped back and left. When Grace turned, Ruggiero stood at the top of the stairs, hands in his pockets, eyes unreadable. How much did he hear? He asked. Enough, she said. Ruggiero's gaze sharpened. He cares about you. Grace nodded. Ruggiero walked down one step. Do you care about him? She froze. Her pulse stumbled. Ethan wasn't the problem. His question was. He's my friend, she said carefully. Ruggiero tilted his head slightly. Friends don't look at you the way he looked. She felt her cheeks warm. You have no right to judge that. I'm not judging, Ruggiero said. I'm observing. She took a breath, trying to steady herself. You're making something out of nothing. That's what you think. That's what I know. He stared at her for another long moment, then spoke quietly. If he becomes a risk, he won't, she interrupted. Don't threaten him. Ruggiero didn't answer. He walked past her into the house. She followed, frustrated, anxious, caught between two worlds she didn't understand. That night, the tension in the mansion felt heavier. Grace cleaned the kitchen slowly, her thoughts spinning. Ruggiero entered quietly, leaning against the counter. She didn't look at him. You're upset, he said. No, she replied. He waited. She sighed. Yes, he nodded once. You think I'm trying to control your life? You are. I'm trying to protect it. She stopped scrubbing a pan and turned to him. Do you hear yourself? You don't ask. You decide. You don't explain. You command. You don't give choices. You force them. He watched her carefully. If I asked, would you listen? She opened her mouth, then closed it. I don't know, she admitted. That's why I don't ask, he said. Their eyes locked. The air tightened between them. Grace, he said, stepping closer. You need to understand something. The more we discover about your past, the more dangerous this becomes. For you. For the people around you. For me. I didn't choose any of this, she said. I know, he answered. But it chose you. A chill ran through her. He moved even closer. Too close. She felt his breath, his warmth, the tension she kept trying to ignore. Her heart pounded. Tell me to step back, he said softly. She looked up at him. She tried to say the words, but her lips stayed shut. He exhaled slowly, as if holding himself still took effort. Grace. A knock on the door broke the moment. Logan entered without waiting. Boss, he said tightly. We found the leak. Ruggiero straightened instantly. Who? Logan swallowed. Someone close. How close? Logan hesitated. Close enough to know Grace's schedule. Close enough to know the servants' wing windows don't have alarms. Close enough to know when she left the house to go to the club. Grace felt her stomach drop. Ruggiero's expression darkened. Say the name. Logan finally answered. It's someone inside the mansion. Ruggiero froze. Grace's pulse spiked. Logan continued, voice low, tense. It's someone Grace sees every day. Grace's breath caught. Someone inside the mansion. Someone she trusted. Someone watching her movements. Ruggiero stepped closer to Logan. Which one? Logan said the name. Grace's blood ran cold. Because it was not a guard, not a cook, not a driver. It was someone who had access to every room. Someone who walked the halls freely. Someone invisible in the house, just like her. It was another staff member. The person who cleaned the guest rooms. The person who worked only at night. The person whose face she barely remembered because they blended into the background. Logan's voice dropped to a whisper. It's the night custodian. And he met with Victor Romano 2 days ago. Grace felt the floor tilt under her feet. Grace could barely process the name that came out of Logan's mouth. The night custodian. A man she barely noticed. Someone who moved quietly through the halls, always looking down, always avoiding eye contact. He worked at the hours when most of the staff slept. He had access to laundry rooms, storage spaces, back entrances, and security blind spots. And he had been meeting with Victor Romano. Grace felt her stomach twist so hard she almost leaned on the counter for support. Ruggiero didn't move at first. He just stared at Logan with a coldness that made the entire kitchen feel 2 degrees colder. "Where is he now?" Ruggiero asked. "Gone," Logan replied. "Didn't show up tonight. Left early yesterday. Cameras caught him at the back gate around 2 a.m. He hasn't returned." Grace hugged her arms around herself. "He watched me." "Every night," Logan said carefully. He had access to doors, windows, and the staff's personal schedules. If he wanted to keep track of you, he could do it without anyone noticing. Her skin crawled. Every memory of walking alone through the servants' corridor suddenly felt dangerous. Ruggiero's jaw flexed. "Find him. Find him before Romano does." "We're working on it," Logan said. "But boss, there's a bigger problem." "What now?" Ruggiero snapped. Logan hesitated, then pulled out his phone. "We traced the custodian's last known location. He went straight to the same nightclub where Grace works." Grace felt her blood drain. "He was inside?" she whispered. "We don't know. Cameras outside caught him entering through the back alley." "When?" Ruggiero asked. "Last night." Grace's breath caught. "That was the night I worked the late shift." "Yes," Logan confirmed. "And we found his car parked 2 blocks from the mansion before that." Grace grabbed the edge of the counter. "He's been following me for days." Ruggiero turned to her instantly. "Not anymore." But Grace couldn't breathe. Every shift at the club flashed through her mind. The crowded tables, the dark corners, the men coming and going. How many times had she walked past him, never realizing who he really worked for? Logan continued. "Maldonado is involved. The custodian met with him twice." Ruggiero's voice dropped dangerously low. "Then Maldonado is the one who wants her." Grace's chest tightened. "Why? Why now?" Ruggiero didn't answer right away. He picked up the Conti file from his desk, flipping to the page with her name. His eyes scanned the lines again. Then he looked at her. "Grace, the witness from the restaurant, the one who saw the meeting 8 years ago." She nodded nervously. "That witness disappeared shortly after. Dead. Romano blamed a leak. Someone talked." Grace's face went pale. "But it wasn't me." "I know," Ruggiero said. "But Maldonado thinks you might have seen more than you realized. And if you disappear now, it looks clean. They're covering old tracks." Grace sank into a chair. "I tried so hard to be invisible. I thought it worked." Ruggiero stepped beside her and placed a hand on the chair's back, close enough to feel his presence but not touching her. "You were invisible," he said, "until someone inside my house pointed directly at you." Grace's eyes stung. Ruggiero's voice softened. "We're going to fix this." Before she could answer, Logan's phone buzzed. He read the message, then swore under his breath. "Boss, we have movement." Ruggiero straightened. "Speak." 2 black cars spotted near the club, plates connected to Romano's crew. They're circling the block. Grace's pulse jumped. "Ethan is working tonight." Ruggiero was already grabbing his jacket. "Logan, get the car." Grace stood instantly. "I'm coming." "No," Ruggiero said. "I'm not staying here alone," she insisted. "Not when they're involved. Not when people I care about might be in danger." He froze at that word, care, but didn't address it. "Stay close to me," he said. They rushed to the SUV. The drive to the club was fast and silent. Ruggiero kept his eyes on the road, one hand tight on the wheel, the other resting near his gun. Grace's hands shook on her lap. She kept replaying her shifts, her walks home, the shadows in the alley behind the club. She had always believed danger lived far from her. Now it felt like it had been beside her for weeks. When they reached the block, the street hummed with music and neon lights. But something felt wrong. Too quiet in some corners. Too many men standing near parked cars. Too many eyes moving toward the entrance. Logan pulled out his weapon and checked the magazine. Ruggiero turned to Grace. "Do not leave my side." "I won't." He opened the door and stepped out. She followed close behind, heart hammering. As they crossed the street toward the alley behind the club, Grace stopped suddenly. Ethan. He stood near the back door, throwing trash into the dumpster, talking to another staff member. He hadn't seen them. Grace's relief broke through her panic for a second. But before she called his name, Logan's hand grabbed her shoulder sharply. "Don't move," Logan whispered. She froze. Ruggiero stepped forward, eyes narrowing. From the dark end of the alley, a van rolled forward slowly. Its headlights were off. Grace's heartbeat thundered. "Logan, there," Ruggiero ordered. Logan moved instantly, lifting his gun, stepping in front of Grace. The van accelerated. "Ethan!" Grace screamed. Ethan turned at the same moment the van doors swung open. Masked men jumped out. Everything happened at once. Gunshots exploded. Ethan dove behind the dumpster. Grace screamed. Ruggiero grabbed her, yanking her behind a row of metal crates, shielding her with his own body as bullets slammed into the wall behind them. "Stay down!" he shouted, but Grace was already shaking violently, the sound of gunfire tearing through her chest. Ruggiero aimed his gun around the crates and fired. Logan fired from the left, hitting one of the masked men. Two more tried to rush Ethan, but Ruggiero shot another in the leg, sending him down screaming. The van reversed suddenly, trying to escape. But Logan hit the tire. The van swerved, crashed into a trash bin, and the last masked man tried to run. Ruggiero tackled him hard, pinning him to the ground, gun to his skull. "Who sent you?" Ruggiero demanded. The man spit blood. "You know who." "Say it." "Maldonado," the man hissed. "He wants the girl." Grace felt the world spin. Ethan rushed to her side, grabbing her arms. "Grace, are you okay? Did they hit you?" "I'm fine," she whispered, shaking uncontrollably. "I'm fine." Ruggiero slammed the man against the pavement. "Why now? Why tonight?" The masked man laughed darkly. "Because your leak gave the schedule. He said this was her last shift before you locked her down." Maldonado said, "Move fast." Ruggiero's eyes turned to ice. "Where is he?" "You'll never get him," the man spat. Ruggiero didn't waste time. He knocked the man out cold. "Logan," he ordered, "call the cleanup team." "On it." Ruggiero then turned to Grace. She stood frozen, tears streaking down her face, Ethan supporting her. Ruggiero walked to her slowly. When she looked up, her voice trembled. "You took a bullet." His shirt sleeve was torn, stained with blood. "It's nothing," he said. Ethan glared. "It is not nothing. You risked getting killed." Ruggiero ignored him. "Grace, look at me." She lifted her head. "You're alive," he said. "That's all that matters." Her tears fell harder. But this time, they weren't from fear. They were from the sickening realization that everything she tried to run from had finally caught up to her, and the one person standing between her and death was the man she had been afraid to trust. Ruggiero placed a hand gently on her cheek, wiping a tear with his thumb. "You're done working here," he said quietly. "We're leaving." She nodded, unable to speak. Ethan grabbed her hand. "Grace, you're not going with him, are you?" Grace hesitated, torn between two worlds. Ruggiero stared at the hand Ethan held. "Let her go," Ruggiero said. Ethan didn't move. "She's not your prisoner." "No," Ruggiero said calmly. "But she is under my protection. Something you can't give her." "Because you're the problem," Ethan snapped. "Your world puts her in danger." "Tonight wasn't my world," Ruggiero said. "It was hers." Grace gasped softly. Ruggiero finally pulled her away from Ethan. She didn't resist. Ethan stepped back, devastated. "Grace, don't disappear, please." She looked at him with guilt and heartbreak. "I'm sorry." Then Ruggiero guided her to the SUV. Inside, Grace trembled and pressed her hands together. "Where are we going?" she asked. "To a safe house," Ruggiero replied. "Somewhere no one can reach you." "No one," she echoed. "No one but me," he said. She shivered, not from fear. He reached over, placing his hand over hers. "Grace, look at me." She turned. "You're safe now." But instead of reassuring her, the words hit her with a truth she couldn't ignore. She felt safest with him, even when she shouldn't. The safe house was isolated, quiet, surrounded by trees, with no neighbors in sight. Logan stayed outside to secure the perimeter while Ruggiero led her inside. The moment the door closed, the silence felt different. Heavy, intimate, warm. Grace sat on the couch, hands shaking. Ruggiero knelt in front of her, gently taking her wrists. "You're not alone," he said. She swallowed hard. "I'm scared." "I know." He lifted her hands to his chest, letting her feel his heartbeat. Steady, controlled, grounding. "You're shaking," he murmured. She closed her eyes. Everything happened so fast. When she opened them again, his face was inches from hers. "Ruggiero," she whispered. "Someone died because of me. Someone is after me. And now Ethan." "He's safe," Ruggiero said. "My men will watch him." "Why are they doing this?" she asked. "Why do they want me so badly?" He hesitated, then told her the truth. "Because someone told them you were the only survivor of a meeting that ruined their operation. Maldonado believes you know something that could expose Romano." Grace felt the blood drain from her face. "But I don't know anything," she whispered. "You know enough that they want you gone." Her breath broke. He stood slowly. "There's more." Her eyes widened. "What do you mean?" He walked to the dining table, grabbed a second file, and opened it. "Grace, someone approached you years ago, someone from law enforcement." Her heart slammed. "Did they ask you for information about the Romano and Conti families?" Her lips parted. She didn't want to remember. But she nodded. "A federal agent," she whispered. "He told me I might have seen something. He asked if I could help, but I didn't want to get involved. I told him no, and I never spoke to him again." Ruggiero watched her carefully. "Did you tell him where you moved?" "No." "Did you tell him your new job?" "No." "Did you tell him anything about me?" "No," she shouted, breath shaking. "I tried to disappear. I didn't betray anyone." Ruggiero's voice softened. "I didn't say you did." She sank onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. He sat beside her slowly. "Grace, listen." She lifted her head, eyes red. "You being approached by an agent made you a loose thread in their world. And loose threads get cut." She inhaled shakily. "And you? Why are you doing this? Why protect me? Why put your men, your life, your name at risk for me?" Ruggiero stared at her. He didn't speak for a long moment. Then finally he did. "Because I can't lose you." Her breath caught. He moved closer, lifting her chin gently with one hand. "Because every time you walk into danger, my chest feels like it's on fire. Because you don't run from me like everyone else does. Because you make me want things I shouldn't want." Her lips parted. "Ruggiero." He leaned in, slow, controlled. His breath brushed her cheek. "Tell me to stop," he whispered. She couldn't. She didn't. She leaned in, too. And then his lips met hers. The kiss was slow at first, then deepened as if he'd been holding back for days. She gripped his shirt, pulling him closer. He cupped her face, sliding his thumb along her jaw, kissing her with a hunger that made her tremble. When he finally pulled back, his forehead rested on hers. "This doesn't change the danger," he said quietly. "But I won't pretend anymore." She touched his cheek gently. "Neither will I." Before he could kiss her again, Logan's voice blasted through the door. "Boss!" Ruggiero jumped up instantly, gun out. Grace's chest tightened with fear. Logan burst inside. "We found the traitor, and we found out who he works with." "Who?" Ruggiero demanded. Logan swallowed hard. "It's worse than we thought." "He wasn't working alone." Ruggiero's eyes narrowed. "Who else is involved?" Logan took a breath. "Someone from inside your circle met with Victor Romano tonight, and they're planning a hit on you." Ruggiero froze. Grace's hand flew to her mouth. Logan continued. "And boss, the meeting is happening right now." Ruggiero stepped forward. "Where?" Logan met his eyes. "At Grace's nightclub." Grace's heart stopped. Grace felt the room drop away the moment Logan spoke those words. A meeting. A betrayal. A planned hit. And all of it happening right now at her nightclub, the place where she served drinks, laughed with co-workers, and thought she was safe. Ruggiero's voice cut through the shock like a blade. Who met with Romano? Logan didn't blink. Someone high enough to know your movements, high enough to know you came here tonight, high enough to know you would leave the mansion to protect her. Ruggiero's eyes narrowed. Say the name. Logan swallowed. Darren Russo. Grace froze. She knew that name. Darren had been in the mansion almost every day since she started working there. He handled repairs, deliveries, staff schedules, always polite, always blending into the background. Quiet, helpful, friendly, a man no one noticed. And that was exactly why he had been the perfect leak. Ruggiero took one step, then another, his jaw locked. Russo had access to cameras, schedules, staff routines. And your meetings, Logan added. He was there during the briefings. He heard everything, Grace whispered. He knew when I worked at the club. He knew everything, Logan said. Ruggiero didn't waste another second. We move now. Logan nodded. The SUV is still hot. No plates, no trackers. Grace stood, trembling. I'm coming. Ruggiero turned. No, you stay here. She shook her head violently. My co-workers are there. Ethan is there. You said Romano's men plan to hit. That place will turn into a battlefield. And that's exactly why you're staying behind. I am not staying, she cried. I'm not hiding while people I know get hurt. Ruggiero stepped closer, voice low. If something happens to you, Romano wins. Everything I've done becomes meaningless. And if something happens to them, she demanded, do their lives matter less? Ruggiero closed his eyes briefly. She didn't understand. Couldn't see the conflict. She was the center of the threat. The reason Romano was moving. The key piece in a game she never asked to play. But she mattered to him. More than she should. We don't fight about this, he said, voice sharp. Not now. She stepped closer, face inches from his. Then don't ask me to be someone who hides in the dark while others bleed. His breath caught. Logan cleared his throat awkwardly, trying to look anywhere but at them. Boss? We need to go. Ruggiero opened his eyes again. Grace, he said, stay behind me, no matter what. Her chest tightened. I will. It was the closest thing to permission he was going to get. They rushed out. The drive to the club was fast and brutal. Tires cut through the wet asphalt. Lights streaked past the windows. Grace sat between Ruggiero and Logan, gripping the seatbelt hard enough to hurt her palms. Tell me everything, Ruggiero said, eyes forward. Logan answered. Russo was seen entering the club through the back alley. Maldano's men followed. Romano is expected to arrive in person. In person? Ruggiero repeated. Logan nodded. Yes, this isn't about business. This is personal. They're done hiding. Ruggiero's jaw tightened. Then so am I. The SUV skidded to a stop 2 blocks away. Logan killed the lights. Approach on foot, Ruggiero ordered. Grace stepped out, heart pounding hard against her ribs. She could already hear shouting from inside the club. Glass breaking. Someone screaming. Her chest tightened. We're too late. Ruggiero took her arm. No, we're early enough. They ran. Smoke drifted through the broken front door of the nightclub. The music had stopped. The interior lights flickered. Figures rushed across the floor, some running away, others fighting. Ruggiero raised his gun immediately. Logan mirrored him. Grace stayed close behind, covering her mouth from the smell of spilled alcohol and smoke. Then she saw Ethan. He was crouched behind an overturned table, trying to drag an injured co-worker to safety. Blood soaked the man's shirt. Ethan held a bar towel over the wound, but his hands shook. Ethan, she screamed. He whipped around, eyes widening at the sight of her. Grace, what are you doing here? Get out! They're inside! 3 men burst from the VIP section, guns raised. Grace froze. Ruggiero didn't. He stepped in front of her so fast her breath caught. Gunshots exploded through the club. Ruggiero fired. 2 clean shots. each finding its mark. Logan took the third man. The gunfire echoed off the walls. Ethan stared at Ruggiero with shock and fear. "You... how... no time," Ruggiero growled. "Get him out the back." Logan rushed to help Ethan carry the injured man toward the rear exit. Ruggiero turned to Grace. "Stay with me." She nodded, but her eyes were fixed on the VIP hallway. The door was open, and the traitor stood there. Darren Russo. He wore the same plain clothes he always wore at the mansion. His hands were bloody, his eyes cold. He blinked once, recognizing her. Then he smirked. "You," he said softly. "You're harder to kill than I expected." Grace's stomach twisted. Ruggiero stepped forward, gun raised. "Don't breathe another word." Russo laughed. "She really has no idea, does she?" "Shut your mouth," Ruggiero warned. Grace grabbed Ruggiero's arm. "What is he talking about?" Ruggiero didn't answer. Russo did. "You think Maldonado wants you because of some random night 8 years ago?" Russo taunted. "No, sweetheart. He wants you because you were never invisible. You were the only one who saw his face during the operation, and Conti—" "Enough!" Ruggiero roared. Russo laughed harder. "And the best part?" Russo continued. "Your little maid was living under your roof the whole time. You brought the witness straight into your house." Ruggiero fired. But Russo ducked behind the VIP wall and sprinted deeper into the club. "Grace, stay here," Ruggiero yelled as he ran after him. But Grace didn't listen. She couldn't. Russo ran up the stairs to the balcony level. Ruggiero chased him. Grace followed close behind, heart hammering, legs trembling. At the top of the stairs, Russo shoved a server's cart toward Ruggiero. Ruggiero dodged it. Russo darted into the narrow corridor leading to the private rooms. Grace followed. Halfway down the hall, Russo spun, aimed his gun directly at her, and fired. Grace screamed and ducked. But the shot never hit her. Ruggiero slammed into her, shoving her behind him, taking the bullet in his shoulder. She gasped, grabbing him. "Ruggiero, I'm fine," he gritted out, raising his gun again. Russo ran. Grace looked at Ruggiero's bleeding shoulder in horror. "You're not fine." "I said I'm fine," he snapped, then softened his voice when he saw her shaking. "Grace, stay behind me, please." She swallowed hard and nodded. They continued down the hall. At the end, Russo reached the manager's office. He ran inside and tried to lock the door. Ruggiero kicked it open. Russo stumbled back. "You can't stop this, Conti. Romano wants both of you gone. Tonight is only the beginning." Ruggiero's hand shook with rage. "You used her. You fed her schedule to Romano. You brought men to her job. You put a target on her back." Russo sneered. "She was never yours to protect." Grace stepped forward. "Why? Why help them?" Russo looked at her, eyes cold. "Because your death buys my freedom. Romano offered me an easy future if I delivered you, and Conti's head." Ruggiero fired. This time, the bullet hit Russo's leg, sending him crashing to the ground. He screamed in pain. Ruggiero stood over him, gun aimed at his throat. "You're done," Ruggiero said. Russo spat blood. "Romano is coming. He's already inside." Grace's breath caught. "Inside where?" A voice cut through the hallway. "Right here." Grace turned slowly. Victor Romano stood in the doorway of the office. Tall, calm, hands in his pockets, flanked by 2 gunmen. His eyes landed first on Ruggiero, then on Grace. "Finally," Romano said, "the girl who ruined everything." Grace stepped back, trembling. Ruggiero raised his gun, standing in front of her as her shield. "You touch her, you die." Romano smirked. "You still don't understand, Conti. I'm not here for you. I'm here for her. You? You're just collateral if you get in the way. Over my dead body. That's the plan." Romano raised his hand. 2 gunmen lifted their weapons. Grace's heart nearly stopped. "Ruggiero," she whispered. He glanced back at her briefly. "Do not move." The first gunman fired. Ruggiero shoved Grace against the wall, shielding her again. Logan suddenly appeared at the other end of the hall, firing 3 rapid shots, taking down 1 gunman instantly. The second gunman lunged forward. Grace acted before she could think. She grabbed a broken bottle from the manager's desk and swung it, hitting the gunman's arm. The shot went wild, grazing the wall. Ruggiero finished the fight with a clean shot. Romano backed away, eyes narrowing. "You two just don't know when to die," Romano hissed. Ruggiero stepped forward. "You're not leaving this building." Romano smirked. "I already have men outside. Even if I fall here, she falls with me." Grace's stomach twisted. Then Romano's smile vanished as Logan aimed at him from behind. But Romano wasn't stupid. He ran. "Go after him!" Ruggiero yelled to Logan. Logan chased him down the stairs. Ruggiero turned to Grace. "Are you hurt?" "No," she whispered, shaking. He cupped her face with his uninjured hand. "You were brave." "You got shot," she said, voice cracking. "Doesn't matter." "It matters to me." Their eyes locked. For a moment, the world around them disappeared. But it came back with a crash. Gunfire roared downstairs again. Logan shouted something Ruggiero couldn't hear. "Grace," Ruggiero said, gripping her face gently. "Listen to me. Romano won't stop, not unless I make a deal he can't refuse." She frowned, confused. "What deal?" Ruggiero didn't answer. Not yet. He only said, "When this ends, things will change." Her heart clenched. "What does that mean?" Another burst of gunfire shook the club. Ruggiero took her hand. "Stay with me." They ran down the stairs. Smoke filled the air. Broken tables, shattered glass, scattered cash, chaos everywhere. Logan appeared behind a column, breathless. "Boss, Romano's escaping through the side exit." "I'm going after him," Ruggiero said. "You stay with Grace." "No," Grace said fiercely. "I'm coming." "You're not." "Yes," she insisted. "You said we don't lie to each other anymore." Ruggiero paused. She was right. But he couldn't bring her into the final confrontation. "No," he said, voice firm. "You stay here with Logan." "But—" Ruggiero grabbed her face again, lowering his voice. "Grace, I need you alive." Her breath caught. Before she could argue, Ruggiero turned and ran toward the side exit. "Boss!" Logan shouted. "Stop!" But Ruggiero didn't stop. He was going after Romano alone. Grace pressed a hand to her chest, heart pounding in fear. Logan cursed under his breath. "Grace, stay behind me." "What is he planning?" she whispered. Logan hesitated, then answered honestly. "A deal. One he'll only tell you after it's too late." Grace's eyes widened. "What deal?" Logan didn't look at her. "He's going to offer Romano something that puts himself at risk, something that protects you no matter what." Grace felt the world tilt. "What risk?" she demanded. Logan finally met her eyes. "The kind men like Ruggiero only take once." Grace's breath stopped cold. "What is he going to do?" she whispered. Logan didn't answer. He just said the truth, the one thing more terrifying than any gunshot. He's going to sacrifice something he's never given up for anyone. Grace's throat tightened. "His empire?" "No," Logan said softly. "His life." Grace couldn't breathe after Logan's words. "His life," he'd said. "Not his power. Not his position. Not his control. His life." Her legs weakened. Logan grabbed her arm before she fell. "Stay with me. Don't panic." "Where is he?" she demanded, voice cracking. "Where did he go?" Logan's jaw clenched. "After Romano. If Romano escapes, the war continues. If Romano dies the wrong way, another war starts. Ruggiero thinks the only solution is a deal." "What deal?" Logan hesitated. "A full surrender. Immunity for you. Protection for a few loyal men. Ruggiero steps down. Disappears. Gives up everything." Grace shook her head violently. "He wouldn't do that." "For you," Logan said. "He already started." Grace's heart slammed against her ribs. "Take me to him. Now." "We can't go in blind." "I'm not asking," she snapped. "I'm telling you. Take me to him." Logan hesitated only 2 seconds, then nodded. "Stay behind me." They pushed through the back exit of the ruined club. Smoke drifted into the night. Sirens echoed in the distance. Broken glass crunched under their feet. A black sedan was parked crooked at the far end of the alley, one door open. Romano's car, gone. But then Logan pointed down the block. There. A warehouse stood across the street, abandoned, windows boarded, huge metal doors rusted shut. A faint light flickered inside. Logan cursed. He went in alone. Grace started running. "Grace," Logan called. But she didn't stop. She sprinted through the rain-soaked street, lungs burning, fear clawing up her throat. She pushed the warehouse door open. Inside, a single overhead bulb flickered, casting long shadows over concrete floors and rusted shelves. The air smelled like old metal and gasoline, and in the center of the room, Ruggero Conti stood face to face with Victor Romano. Romano had a gun. Ruggero didn't. Grace froze. Romano smirked when he saw her. Perfect timing. Ruggero's eyes widened. "Grace, get back." But she didn't. She stepped forward. Romano raised the gun toward Ruggero's chest. Grace screamed, "Stop!" Romano turned the gun toward her. Ruggero reacted instantly, stepping in front of her. Romano laughed. "Always the protector, always the fool." "You want to kill me?" Ruggero said, voice steady. "Fine, but let her go." Romano shook his head. "She's the whole reason we're here. You think I'm letting her walk away?" Ruggero raised his hand slowly. "Then take me instead." Grace gasped. "Ruggero, shut up," he whispered to her, voice shaking for the first time. Romano's eyes widened in amusement. "What is this? The great Ruggero Conti offering his life? For a maid?" "She is not just my maid," Ruggero said. The words hit Grace like a wave. Romano lowered his aim slightly. "Then tell me, Conti, what is she?" Ruggero looked at her, really looked at her. "She's the only person who ever made me want to leave this world." Grace's breath broke. Romano grinned, sensing the weakness. "So that's the deal? Your life for hers?" "Yes," Ruggero said. "No," Grace said fiercely. "No, absolutely not." She stepped in front of Ruggero. Romano blinked. "You're brave for someone with no leverage." "I have leverage," she said. "Me." Ruggero grabbed her arm. "Grace, stop." But she pulled away and faced Romano. "You kill me and you get nothing," she said. "No leverage over Ruggero, no advantage, no victory, because he'll hunt every one of you down. Deal or not?" Romano laughed once, short and sharp. "You think you understand how this works?" "I understand this," she said. "You want the past gone. I'm the last witness. But I don't know anything that helps you. I never did. Killing me won't erase your mess. And killing Ruggero won't fix your weakness." Romano's smirk faltered. Grace stepped closer. "You're running out of men," she said. "Out of power, out of time. That's why you need this deal as much as he does." Ruggero stared at her, stunned. Romano's jaw tightened. His gun wavered. Grace's voice softened, but her eyes stayed sharp. "Let this go. Take the deal. Save yourself." Romano's eyes flicked between her and Ruggero. He lowered the gun. "It's a good speech," Romano murmured. "But you're wrong about one thing." Grace frowned. Romano smiled coldly. "I don't need the girl alive." He suddenly raised the gun toward her. Grace's heart stopped. A gunshot echoed. One. Just one. Romano stumbled backward, eyes wide, a bullet lodged in his chest. He collapsed onto the concrete floor. Behind him, Logan stood in the doorway with his gun raised. Grace gasped. Ruggero pulled her into his arms instantly. "You're okay. You're okay." She buried her face in his chest, breathing hard, shaking uncontrollably. Logan approached cautiously. "He's gone, boss. It's over." Ruggero held Grace tighter. "No, it's not over. Not yet." They left the warehouse as police sirens grew louder. Logan had a cleanup team on the way. Ruggero kept his arm around Grace the entire time, guiding her carefully through the rain. Back at the safe house, the silence felt different. Heavy. Final. Grace sat on the sofa, wrapped in a blanket, watching Ruggero pace the room with blood still drying on his shoulder. He finally stopped. "We need to talk," he said. Grace nodded. "About the deal?" He looked at her, surprised she knew. "You were going to give up everything. she said softly. For me. Ruggiero exhaled slowly. I was prepared to disappear, change my name, leave my men with protection and vanish so Romano's family wouldn't retaliate. Grace's eyes filled. You would have faked your death. His silence told her everything. Why? She whispered. He stepped toward her, stopping right in front of her knees. Because I can survive losing my empire, he said quietly. But I can't survive losing you. Grace felt her breath tremble. You saved my life, she whispered. You saved mine, he replied. She looked at the blood on his shirt. You got shot again. I've had worse. It's not the point. He kneeled in front of her. Her heart jumped. Grace Miller, he said, I can't promise you a clean life. I can't promise peace every day, but I can promise honesty and loyalty, and that I will never let anything touch you again. Tears slid down her cheeks. I never wanted a perfect life. I just wanted someone who didn't lie to me, someone who didn't use me, someone who didn't see me as invisible. You were never invisible to me, he whispered. She touched his cheek, gently tracing the line of his jaw. And you were never the monster I was told to fear. He leaned into her touch. She leaned forward. Their foreheads touched, and when their lips met, the kiss was slow, deep, and full of everything they'd fought through to get there. Love, fear, relief, possession, choice. He lifted her onto his lap. She curled her fingers in his hair. His hands gripped her waist, pulling her closer, as if he finally allowed himself to want something without holding back. When the kiss ended, both were breathless. What happens now? She whispered. Ruggiero sat back, hands still on her waist. Now? We leave. Leave? He nodded. I made one last arrangement with Rebecca. She filed documents placing Logan temporarily in charge of the neutral operations. The rest dissolves. My father's legacy ends with me. Grace blinked. You're walking away? Yes, he said simply. If I stay, someone else will try to use you against me. I won't allow that. She placed her hands on his shoulders. Where will we go? He smiled, small, real, unguarded. Anywhere you want. Grace's breath caught. I've never chosen anything in my life. You're choosing now. She swallowed. Then, somewhere quiet. Somewhere with real mornings and people who don't know our names. Ruggiero stood, lifting her effortlessly in his arms. Then that's where we go, he said. She laughed softly, holding on to him. You're bleeding, you know. We'll stop at a clinic, he said. Then we disappear. Disappear together? She asked carefully. He met her eyes. Yes, together. Grace's chest tightened with a warmth she hadn't felt in years. He put her down gently and reached for her hand. Let's start over, he said. Not as a maid and a boss. Not as someone hiding and someone protecting. Just you and me. She smiled, tears still shining in her eyes. I want that, she whispered. He pulled her close and kissed her again, slow, certain, and full of promise. Outside, the night was quiet. For the first time in a long time, neither of them were running. They walked out of the safe house hand in hand, leaving the world that hurt them behind. And Ruggiero murmured one last truth in her ear. You were never just my maid, Grace. You were the reason I finally wanted out. If you enjoy stories like this, take a moment to subscribe to the channel. That's how I'll know you truly liked it. Even if you're watching on your TV, grab a second to join this family of fans who love emotional and heartfelt stories. Your support means everything, and it helps us bring you even more tales like this one.